Boom, boom. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's a beautiful grey day here in London. It's only February though, so you know, you make excuses. But how are you doing? The channel's been growing like quite a bit lately, which has really been nice. And yeah, seen a lot of changes going on. A lot of flow with my creating as well, which is great. I'm really enjoying just creating content at the moment, so it's really awesome. But today I actually want to talk to you about quite a kind of complex but kind of simple topic, and that is lenses. And actually lenses kind of took me a while to get my head around when I first started in videography. And I think that's because I didn't really think about it too much, you know. Obviously most people always just kind of buy like, you know, a zoom lens. And I think that's what I did. When I first got my like Blackmagics, went out, got an, you know, and they are like Micro Four Thirds sensor, which is, you know, we're gonna have to talk a bit about sensors because that's a really important part of it as well. But I had, you know, Blackmagic pockets in my cameras with a Micro Four Thirds. I just went to a camera shop, asked them what a good lens for that lens mount was, and then I just bought these, like, I think they were Panasonic Micro Four Thirds lenses, zoom lenses. Really good lenses, to be fair. Look beautiful lenses. I can't remember the focal length on them now, and this is obviously where it gets complicated because they were Micro Four Thirds anyway, so I'd have to incorporate the crop factor if I was going to relate that back to a full frame camera. But anyway, all I'm trying to say is, when you're trying to buy a new lens, if you don't know anything about lenses, crop factors, you're just going to go out, buy a zoom lens, stick on the camera, zoom in and out and think, okay, that looks cool. But the reason why I wanted to make this video was I'm trying to say, like, maybe have a bit more thought to your lenses, you know, and what you want to buy next. Or say you just bought a camera, what's going to be your first kind of lens you buy? Because all you're going to buy really depends on what you're going to do with it. You know, if you want it for vlogging, you're going to buy one quite wide. If you want it for taking like pictures of birds and stuff, you're obviously going to want like a telephoto lens that's you know, got really strong long focal length. So just going to talk a bit about that and try and simplify that a bit for you. My God, my arm is getting so weak. Been holding this camera now just for like 2 minutes and my arm's killing me. I need to build some muscles up.
I hit the avenue, baby, I'm on a mission. I peel a scab or two if you play me some pimping. I used to talk a lot lately, I listen.
So we're going to talk about lenses. I'm going to relate everything back to full frame sensor size because that is really like the most easiest kind of way to describe it, and everything else you can just kind of convert, and I'll try and give you the conversions as I go along. Although there is a lot of sensor sizes now, so I'm not going to give you a conversion for everything. I mean, you've got like GoPros even, and you've got so many different sensor sizes now, so I'm not going to go into that. I might just go into something like APS-C and Micro Four Thirds because they're like good camera size sensors. And once again, like, I have a video on sensors that I'm going to link around here somewhere, so if you don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to sensor size, go back and watch that video. But a sensor is basically just behind the lens. You've got the sensor, which is where your film would originally be. You have different size sensors, so the image goes through the lens and it hits the sensor, and that's where it's captured and registered. So I'm just going to check up the sensor size and the conversion rates. I'm going to link this image I'm looking at now onto the screen so you can see it. So you've got full frame and you have an APS-C. I'm going to talk about the APS-C for Nikon, Pentax and Sony, which is 1.5 crop. And then you have Micro Four Thirds, which is 2. And as you can see, all those different sensor sizes. So all you'd really work out is the sensor size. So say you're working with a 16mm and you've got it on an APS-C lens, you go 16 times 1.5, and that is what you're actually looking at. Or if you're working with a Micro Four Thirds, you would do like 16 times 2, and that is your focal length. And it does make a huge difference because even if you buy an APS-C lens, it will say like 16mm on there, but actually when you put it on the camera, and if you put it on a full frame camera, you'll see it will be cropped in. So you still have to almost do the conversion rate backwards on the lens. That kind of makes sense. This can be really confusing. It took me a while to kind of get my head around. That's why now I just buy full frame systems. I can't bother with the mathematics of it. But let's just talk about a full frame system for now. So if you're going to be on vlogging or something like that, you want to kind of use a wide lens, and this is great for shooting rooms, etc. It's a good 16mm to about 35, and that is like, you can get a lens that is actually, you know, it's quite a famous lens. I'm using it at the moment. It's a 16 to 35, and basically it's just great for really capturing that wide. And any wider than that, you'll start getting kind of distortions on the side, and it will make things, yeah, like a bit more curvature, and you get that kind of bold fisheye look, but kind of a nice expensive lens. Shouldn't get too much distortion on the side, and everything, even if it's quite wide, like a 16mm, should look quite smooth. You know, you shouldn't get too much distortion on the side. And then yeah, you can punch it in all the way to about 35, so that is wide, okay? And then I would say anything from about 30 or 40 to about 70, you're looking at, you know, what they call like a standard lens. So that, you know, it's kind of very much similar to the eye, like a 50mm is most similar to the eye. You don't get that kind of lens compression that you'll get on a higher lens. You don't get that kind of like such a wide shot on the sides. Things just look more natural. And then once you go past about 70, you get what's called telephoto, and they're the giant lenses that you see people have when they're shooting like football or they're shooting like birds. And they can be very, very expensive a lot of the time because they're just huge. So that's the kind of telephoto range. So as I mentioned, like it really depends what you're gonna kind of do with this. If you want to go for like kind of portrait photography, a lot of the time actually, even though you're standing quite close, a lot of those really like more like standard to telephoto look really good, because anything too wide, you're gonna start getting like a bulging around the side. I'll get a few shots now as I'm walking around, and you can get a kind of a feel for what like wider lenses look like and what more zoomed in lenses look like. I always have two lenses on me basically, and it's either the 16 to 35mm, which I shoot on a lot of the time because obviously it's great for like this YouTube stuff and you can carry it around. And then I also always have a 24 to 70 because that's just a really great length. That's like, you know, that kind of mid-range. As I was saying, you know, I shoot a lot of client work on a 24 to 70. And so, you know, that's kind of really where I'm roughly at most of the time. I've never really needed a telephoto lens. I don't really shoot sports or birds or anything like that long, you know. Yeah, the most I've gone up to is about an 85. And 85 is a beautiful, beautiful length, especially if you're shooting portraits. You have to try that 85 G Master if you get a chance. That is absolutely a stunning lens. So, you know, moving into that telephoto can look really, really beautiful. But yeah, let me go get some examples of different focal lengths and you can see what I'm kind of talking about.
Baby dragging a wagon, I wonder how did she tow it? I'm that diva receiver, already know this shit, throw it. I touch down for the touchdown, make little baby bust down. Rude as I wanna with that, I don't give a fuck sound.
So yeah, you see some of those clips and the different lengths in which the, you know, the focal length kind of changes and moves. And it's awesome how you can basically use the kind of lenses to really capture like spaces, atmosphere, or even use it to kind of capture emotions. Or there's so many things that actually different lenses can be kind of used for. But one thing I really want you to kind of take note on here is not just about kind of zooming in and out. It's also about how the lens changes in terms of distance. So like if the lens is wider, so as I mentioned right now, I'm shooting on a kind of 16mm. Look at how the background kind of seems further away, and even shooting like portraits and people's faces, sometimes, especially if they're towards the more side end of the screen, it kind of can accentuate features and make people like, you know, not so maybe attractive or so. Whereas a kind of more bigger lens, more compressed lens would actually kind of bring the background in, will kind of compress the shot and often make faces a bit more flattering or so. So right now I'm shooting on a 16mm, and look what happens if I shoot on a 35. So this is a 35, and as you can see, there's not as much like curvature on the kind of side of the lens. Things might start to look a bit more kind of flat. And then if I actually start moving up now towards maybe like a 50mm, I'm going to just change my lens, and I'll also move the camera a tiny bit more back, so it'll roughly get this similar kind of shot, but you'll just see how the lens will change. So this is on 50mm, and obviously it is a bit more zoomed in. Also, things start to look a bit nicer, as I mentioned, like faces, features. It just seems to like flatten things out a bit more. And now I'll move it to actually a 70mm, but once again, I'm going to move it further back just so you can kind of see a comparison in the kind of framing. I don't want to try and change the framing too much. So now this is 70mm, so as you can see, I've kind of tried to frame it roughly the same, but you can see it's a lot more like, doesn't have that curve on the side. Everything's a lot more flatter. That's why I say this is a really nice kind of length to shoot portraits in. It gives a real nice kind of effect of things being a bit more flatter, things being a bit more compressed. So there you go. Hopefully you can tell the difference there, and just test out different lenses. Obviously, as I mentioned as well with the conversion, yeah, check out those conversions for your kind of focal length. Obviously, things do make a difference if you take in that kind of crop factor, and things won't be the same as a full frame. But obviously, as I mentioned, full frame lenses do cost a bit more, so that's just something to consider as well. But anyway, I hope you found this useful, and just let me know in the comments what lens you're kind of like thinking of buying. Maybe I've used it before and I could give you a little guide. But if not, anyway, please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.
Look, I hit the avenue, baby, I'm on a mission. I peel a scab or two if you play me some pimpin'.